Good morning, everyone. Today we're checking out a brand new video from the film theaters about This Is an Emergency a lot, sorry, from local channel 58. Let's hop in and check it out.
One of the scariest analog horror series on the entire internet has finally returned. Yeah, we've received a new broadcast from Local 58, and the monster we see in it is going to break this series wide open. Be careful, loyal theorists,
What is it?
because it's looking right at you.
Oh.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory,
Okay.
the show that wants you to go outside and look at that big subscribe button in the sky. Isn't it beautiful? Don't you just want to click it? So, it's been a minute since we've covered a classic analog horror series here on the channel.
Oh,
but
it
thankfully,
has.
a new episode of Local 58 just dropped on Halloween, so I had to look into it. If you don't know, Local 58 is an analog horror series created by writer and artist Chris Straub. If you're unfamiliar with Straub, you probably do know some of his other work or series that have been influenced by him. Like his creepypasta Candle Cove, all about a children's show that only children could see, went mega viral back in like 2009 and was actually
Oh, he created that? Huh. I had heard about that, but I've never actually seen anything from it.
adapted into a season of the Sci-Fi Channel series Channel Zero. We just love to see online creators getting the success and respect they deserve.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right, it's
Local
always good.
58 is all about a local broadcast channel named WCLV-TV in Mason County, West Virginia. On the surface, it just seems like a fairly typical local TV network, airing movies and documentaries and the like. But things get way creepier as you watch. Some of their shows
It's
are outright
thrown.
disturbing, while others seem to get hijacked or
Don't look at the
altered by
moon.
some unknown force. It's
Go
classic
outside
horror
now.
stuff with really compelling ideas and scares, so much so that it's been a favorite of internet
I'm sorry. Why was that skeleton like bury me like one of your French girls?
theorists for years
Oh,
now. Matt
sorry,
actually did a
come
couple
on.
theories on it ages ago, and tons of work has been done over on the Local 58 subreddit and on websites like GameDetectives.net. Shoutouts to both of those communities, they've been invaluable resources for us. And really, they've both been necessary. Local 58 has one of the deepest mysteries of any analog horror series we've ever covered. But now,
Oh, yeah?
with the release of these latest videos, I believe we may have a much better idea of what's going on in this series. Yeah, by diving into a lot of the older writings from its creator and looking at the inspirations behind the new Local 58 videos, we can crack this storyline wide open. Spoiler alert, there's an alternate dimension bleeding into our own, and that could mean the end of the world.
Yes.
Don't you dare turn that dial, loyal theorists. We're tuning
Isn't it kind of weirdly common how everyone always comes up with the idea of something not of this plane of existence bleeds into this plane of existence, and so it's messing with it to try and make it like its own? I know it's just because there's the whole concept of there is nothing new, everything is remixed. It's just kind of interesting to point out. I mean, no hate. I love what the guy is doing. And I love it when everyone is doing what they love to do, when they're passionate about it.
in. So I think the best thing for us to do here is catch everybody up on Local 58 since
Yes,
it's been a
please
few
do.
years since we've covered it. Well, long story short, as mentioned above, Local 58 is a series about a local broadcast channel, WCLV-TV, located in Mason County, West Virginia. On the surface, it seems like your typical broadcast TV network with movies and documentaries and kids cartoons, but things quickly turn creepy. Some content aired on Local 58 is disturbing. The station is hijacked by other messages, or programming is altered by some unknown force. Some big examples: in the video, You Are on the Fastest Available Route, we see a dash cam
Oh,
of
yeah,
a
that's
driver
right.
that's lured into the woods by a glitching GPS before encountering some sort of monster. In Show for Children, we see an animated skeleton come across several open graves with monstrous bodies inside before he himself dies. While in Contingency, we see a public service announcement
Well, it was already a skeleton, so I'd say more like stops being animated.
instructing viewers to, unalive themselves. Some of the videos also call out phone numbers and websites, leading to an ARG which built upon these creepy mysteries. But a running theme we
alright.
noticed throughout the entire series was the moon. Sometimes, the moon is depicted as a creepy monster looking over the earth and ends up killing that previously described cute cartoon
Bong.
skeleton. In others, viewers are encouraged to look outside and up at the moon. We hear screaming in the distance, suggesting that it isn't a pleasant experience. Finally, we see that the moon seems to be some giant, living, breathing entity. There's straight up what looks like organic material inside of it, and also it looks like a giant skeletal monster. One video also called The Moon, His Throne, suggesting that this entity is living inside of the moon and using it to watch over the Earth. Matt and other theorists I've seen here around YouTube suggested that Local 58 was
Weirdly kind of reminds me of like that space version of Iron Lung, to where you get close to a planet and you can hear a heartbeat within it, and then how that planet chases you.
an alien invasion story, though Stroud seemingly debunked this. That being said, there does seem to be some sort of interdimensional Lovecraftian energy going on here, which seems like it's really splitting hairs with the term alien, but hey, who am I to judge? Like I said above, that's a super abridged version of the story we've deciphered so far, so please go watch our previous theories if you want a more thorough explanation. But the real reason we're here today is to talk about the new content, and well, since we did our last theory, there have been 2 main videos released on the Local 58 channel. So let's cover them one by one and then see where they sit in our overarching narrative. The first of these is called Close, and though it's rather lengthy, there actually isn't a ton to recap on this one. Close shows footage from a SARO mission, that's the Space and Aeronautics Regulatory Oversight, this universe's version of NASA, sending a probe to an asteroid named Eidolon as it passes close to Earth. This asteroid is particularly famous in universe because it vaguely resembles a skull when viewed from certain angles. A celestial body that looks like a skeleton. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Bad.
Also, Eidolon is a word meaning idealized person, like someone you might want to put on a throne. Just food for thought there. Regardless, like most of the video is just footage from the mission and information about both the asteroid and the lander being sent towards it. However, as the probe gets closer, the footage starts getting glitchy and we see a door on the asteroid. Yeah, like straight up a door, like one you'd see in your house. The video feed gets super choppy before the lander makes contact, but the door then opens, revealing organic material inside of the asteroid, similar to what we've seen on the moon. Then, an unseen force throws the lander back out into space. Cut to black, cue the end of the video. Again, interesting choices made here if the creator's trying to lean away from that whole alien angle, but, you know, whatever. So, there's a lot going on here that we should talk about, but the thing that really jumped out at me first, other than the whole door on the asteroid thing, was the discussion about seeing the skull or face in the asteroid. The video tries to make it clear that this is just a scientific coincidence. It just so happens that when light hits Eidolon at the right angle, it looks like a skull. This is a real world...
I mean, it's literally something you can do with almost anything. And get some clay, shine a light on it, boom, you can make a skull.
Phenomenon known as pareidolia, which is the human instinct to see patterns where there are none. This is especially true for faces. We humans just love seeing faces in everything, from clouds to houses to fruit. But this actually goes one level deeper for us here in the context of this Local 58 video. Yeah, pareidolia in celestial objects is incredibly common. The most famous or infamous example of this is the face on Mars. If you don't know, when we first imaged the surface of Mars with probes, a region of the planet known as Cydonia exploded in pop culture because of one particular mountain that looked like a human face.
Yeah, I had seen it. I mean, I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it.
Conspiracy theorists took this and immediately ran with it as proof of extraterrestrial life and intelligence on Mars. This was surely a giant statue from an ancient civilization, right? Well, not so. Further images of the location showed the same mountain with different lighting, and believe it or not, but it was just a regular mountain. The sun was just hitting the rock at the right angle, and we took the picture at the right time to make it look like a face. But all that being said, given Local 58's history of taking real conspiracy theories and using them as inspirations for its lore, that seems to be the same thing that's happening here, that this Eidolon asteroid actually is evidence of some sort of ancient Lovecraftian entity or civilization, one that made something inside of this asteroid. Really lines up well with what we've seen from the rest of the series with the whole moon entity, doesn't it? It could also line up with other conspiracy theories about asteroids and meteorites. Particularly, the one I'm thinking about is from 2017, when the first interstellar object that we've ever detected passed through the solar system. This was an asteroid named Oumuamua, and from our best guess, this thing was, well, it was just plain weird. Like, seriously, there are entire 30+ minutes 5-minute documentaries here on YouTube about this thing.
Oh,
but what
wow.
you need to know for our purposes here today, Oumuamua came from outside of the solar system, approached the inner solar system between the Earth and the Sun, slingshotted around our star, and then left the solar system. But you know what was really weird? It got faster and faster as it left. That is not supposed to happen, and though there are some potential natural explanations, we're not exactly sure how or why it did that. Conspiracy theorists, of course, jumped on this and threw out some wild
Then again, you said it slingshotted past the star. Oh, so if if you know anything about slingshotting past the celestial body, you know that when you actually leave that, you all meant to get faster because you took some of its gravitational pull to throw yourself. So it kind of makes a little bit sense, but if you're not like focusing on that, I can understand like how you could start seeing aliens.
speculation. Like maybe this thing was an alien probe that came to check in on our solar system before leaving to report back to its alien overlords. Maybe that's why it sped up as it left. It was using some sort of propellant to leave the solar system. Honestly, to me, in the real world, that science seems like a bit of a stretch. But that could have been the inspiration for something similar happening here with Eidolon and Local 58. There do seem to be some legitimate otherworldly entities on board this thing since they threw the lander off of the asteroid, so maybe this is some sort of scout keeping a watchful eye on the Earth and the rest of the solar system as the invasion continues. I mean, the skull face is even like facing towards us, looking at Earth. It just makes sense. The second video is Nightwalk, a documentary in the style of an old Twilight Zone or Unsolved Mysteries episode about local urban legends. This one covers The Woman in Profile, a mysterious ghost story first reported in 1961 when police were investigating the murder of a student at the local Maple Grove University in Icker Falls, West Virginia. Witnesses described a woman in the university courtyard.
Oh, it's this. Okay.
Staring intently into the sky, but she faded back into the shadows and disappeared when approached. Since this point, there have been over 24 sightings in the area, and curiously, she has only ever been seen in profile. The one child who saw the woman believed that she was still watching him during their encounter, saying, quote, "The lady can see me even though I'm not up there." It's creepy stuff, and there's a good reason for that. Towards the end of the video, we suddenly cut to some found footage of a camcorder taken on November 24th, 1996. That's almost 35 years after the Woman in Profile's first appearance. Here, we see the Woman in Profile against a sunset, but if you look closely, you'll see that the back of her head looks like another face. However, as the tape goes on, a flash...
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that one optical illusion to where you're looking at a vase, but then if you switch your mind, you're looking at two people having a conversation.
Flashlight crosses the woman, and it's revealed not to be a woman at all. Instead, it's some sort of creature. Its head only looks like it's looking to the side, but in actuality, it's looking directly ahead, directly at you. We then see the text, "A predator cannot differentiate between prey and accomplice," flash on screen as the video ends. So, okay, that was all.
There was something else as well. It looked like it said safety in hunting.
Also a lot. Where do we even start breaking this one down? Well, the first thing I wanted to call out was the use of the phrase, "A predator cannot differentiate between prey and accomplice." This is actually not the first time this text has shown up in the Local 58 series. It was found in earlier videos and in the ARG, and we believed that it was pointing towards the monster in the moon. There is clearly some sort of cult following this entity, but in the end, the entity will not be able to tell the difference between its followers and the rest of humanity, between its accomplices and its prey. So right off the bat, that's building a connection between this Woman in Profile creature and the entity inside of the moon, and that isn't the only connection here. Everyone who has sighted the Woman in Profile consistently believes that she's looking up at something, so much so that witnesses often follow her gaze upwards to see what she's looking at. As we've already talked about in the Local 58 universe, looking up in the sky is potentially very dangerous since the moon seems to have some sort of psychological impact on anyone that stares at it. Could this creature known as the Woman in Profile be trying to trick humans into looking up into the sky at the moon? Also, though it's not directly related, one of the newspaper articles we see in the video mentions a mine collapse where many of the workers there died. We're briefly given a list of casualties, including several people named Mooney. Just an interesting factoid and yet another connection with the moon. This monster is clearly connected to all of the cults and creatures and predators associated with the moon. Oh, and also this is a very small thing, but I think it's worth pointing out that prey and predators actually have an evolutionary distinction between them. Generally,
yeah, the main way is like the eyes. prey have their eyes a bit more to the side, which gives them a bit more of a range of view to be able to see over there and over here, while for predators, their eyes are more forward so they can look straight on at their prey before giving chase.
Animals that are prey have evolved to have eyes on the sides of their head, giving them a wider
Why the hell did I bother talking? They're going to explain that anyway!
field of vision to spot potential threats. Conversely, predators often evolve to have eyes on the front of their head so they can better focus on their targets. Isn't it then interesting that this woman in profile seems to have evolved to make people think it's looking to the side, putting them at ease because it isn't looking at them, but in reality, it's actually staring directly at them. A predator evolved to make its prey think it's not a threat. It's
Yep,
just a
that's
great little
terrifying.
detail. So that's a surface level analysis of these videos, but what more can we find if we dig just a little deeper? Is there anything else in here that tells us about Local 58 as a whole series, a whole universe? Well, that isn't a rhetorical question, loyal theorists, because the answer is absolutely yes. One thing that really stuck out to me was that the Nightwalk episode called Mason County, the location where this entire series takes place in,
Home to what some call the most haunted cities in America.
basically,
most
ghost
haunted
stories have been a
cities?
part of the culture here since the area's settlement by missionaries centuries ago. So, I wondered,
Alright.
is Mason County a real place? And if so, is there any real-world lore we could dig into to try to connect any dots here? And boy, oh boy, loyal theorists, we hit the jackpot with this one. See, Mason County is a real place, and the real-world
yeah, of
Mason
course.
County is actually home to one of the most famous cryptid stories in American history,
Mothman?
the Mothman. Between November
Nice.
15th, 1966 and December 15th, 1967, the residents of Point Pleasant, West Virginia in Mason County reported sightings of a flying creature with glowing eyes that would become known as the Mothman. This
Bum,
ranged from
bum.
gravediggers claiming that it flew over their heads while doing their job, to young people reporting that their car was chased by the creature, to the Mothman flying over the local Silver Bridge that spanned the Ohio River. That bridge would
Until-
eventually collapse on December 15th, 1967, sadly killing 46 people. After
Yeah, but it was actually because of that event that the Mothman legend became synonymous with bad events. Like, if you see the Mothman, something terrible is gonna happen.
this, sightings of the Mothman stopped in the area, though other people across the world have claimed to see the creature in more recent decades, the most notable of which was in Russia before the 1999 Moscow apartment bombings. Because of the
Ooh,
bridge collapse and the
okay.
apartment bombings, people have often associated the Mothman with omens of disaster. As someone with a genuine passion for cryptids and cryptozoology,
Oh,
I
hell yeah.
freaking love the Mothman. Anyway, the fact that the
Full
Mothman started
agreement.
appearing at roughly the same time as the woman in profile and in the exact same part of the United States cannot be a coincidence. That is a very specific time frame and a very specific place down to the same county. That's more than just a little inspiration and why I believe we can learn a lot about the monsters here in Local 58 from the extended Mothman legend. And
Go
that
on.
might help us crack
Please.
exactly what's going on here in this series. For example, the Mothman folklore is
Oh, look at
often
that
paired with
statue.
another urban legend of a mysterious man named Indrid Cold. This was an uncanny looking man with a freakish smile that appeared around the same time and place as the Mothman in West Virginia. The prominent
I'm sorry, why did I have to give that Mothman statue such glorious chest hair? Why? Hey, like, legit, hold on. Look at that! It does not need chest hair that thick. And why did they give him abs? Like, damn! I'm sorry, is this Mothman or Hunkman?
The prominent
Sorry,
belief amongst
sorry.
conspiracy theorists was that he was some sort of man in black, or some sort of alien or extra-dimensional being in human form. Again, that would fit with a lot of the themes present here in Local 58, of humanity being infiltrated by these otherworldly beings. So, what else can we find here in that Mothman legend? Well, one of the more popular interpretations of the folklore comes from the Mothman Prophecies. This was a book profiling the sightings that was later adapted into a movie with the same name. This version of the
Interesting.
creature was said to be a being from another dimension that manifested into our reality. What if something similar is going on here in Local 58? It borrows so much from this folklore already, it's not a stretch to suggest that the inspiration went that far, too. And what's more, it also wouldn't be the first time that Straub has played with that idea in his writings. In one of his
Oh, yeah?
earlier works called The Hirsch Camera, Straub describes a mysterious camera at a museum in Acre Falls, West Virginia, which used a unique process to create color photography. photography. On display with it are 12 pictures, including a local town square, natural environments, and a girl who isn't looking at the camera. Doesn't that sound familiar? A coincidence, I'm sure. But here's the thing. All of the pictures do not line up with historical record or other photographs of the same time. Instead, they depict buildings that never existed, trees with human hands at the ends of their branches, people crawling on all fours, or a man with a grossly distorted head. If I were to take a guess here,
hey, that's just Sloth from Goonies, man. Come on.
My interpretation of what's going on is that whatever process this inventor used to create this camera isn't taking pictures of our world. Instead, it's taking pictures of the same time and place from another world. Another dimension. What if that dimension here
Still
is what
pretty
we're
awesome.
seeing bleed over here into the real world in Local 58? What if all of the weird happenings and the broadcasts getting hijacked and the moon looking weird and the woman in profile are all from this alternate dimension? Now, you might think that, wait, this is a completely different thing that Straub wrote. Can we really connect it to this ongoing Local 58 story? And that is fair to point out, but Straub is an author who has gone out of his way to connect all of his works before. Remember at the top of the episode when I talked about Candle Cove, that creepypasta that Straub wrote back in the day that was so popular?
Yeah, I think early on in the video you actually showed somewhere of him saying, and yeah, no, that's a complete show that is going on in the Local 58 universe.
And influential that was adapted into a Sci-Fi Channel series? Well, that creepypasta mentions that Candle Cove aired on Channel 58, and Straub has confirmed that this is the same channel as Local 58. Its official name, WCLV-TV, is even a reference to Candle Cove, so it's entirely reasonable to assume that other works like the Hirsch camera could also be connected too. And even more importantly for us, the Hirsch camera and all of its photography was created in Icker Falls, a fictional location created by Straub and one of the towns directly serviced by Local 58. All of the paranormal happenings we see here in Local 58 are because of some crossover with an alternate dimension, maybe the same one described here in the camera's story. And honestly, that would explain so much. If the entities are from another dimension, that may explain why Straub insists they aren't aliens, they're dimension hoppers. That could also explain why the woman in profile creature is able to disappear so easily. It's fading into the shadows, out of this world and back into its own dimension. It could explain why people the world over aren't freaking out all the time over the moon if it has a giant skeleton in it. Maybe you just have to be in a very specific place like Mason County, West Virginia to even see it. But if you do, it's
kind of like Gravity Falls in, Gravity Falls. How only that place is truly affected by all the weird Mageddon shit.
Certainly seen you too, and that could be the end of you. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory! And cut! Up next on...
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say because, wow, this actually is kind of freaking me out a little bit. But I can tell you, this guy is doing some great work. He's even making me feel terrified. Alright everyone, well that's going to be the end of today's video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below. And I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.